What is up, everybody? It is Jack Lloyd here. I am excited. We're going to be doing something fun today. We're taking a look at the YAIRA #1 fan art contest. So like before, I take a look at the contest and see which art pieces I think are likely to win. So far, I haven't been very successful at it. And again, I still wonder if it's just because some of those don't qualify in time because you have to have certain criteria and you have to respond in a certain time frame. But who knows? Maybe my luck will be better this time. So if you're not already over here, make sure to get on over to youtube.com/Jack Lloyd. This is streaming to a bunch of different places, but I'd love to have you on my YouTube channel. Make sure to hit like on the video, subscribe, and click the notification bell. Definitely trying to boost up the visibility on this. So I just want everybody to come on by over to youtube.com/Jack Lloyd to check it on out. So, things have been otherwise great. It's been an awesome, a few weeks. We had a successful funding of our music video and the Fed. So we hit goals, surpassed goals. So that's going to be awesome. And this past week, we fulfilled the Voluntarius comics. So tons of people are starting to get in the comic books. So that's been, really awesome. So it's just snowballing one thing after the other. Lots of fun stuff, lots of great things going on. So let's take a look at the fan art because it just closed yesterday. So we got some entries here for YAIRA. And I'm going to be giving kind of an overview to each of the pieces that I see. Some I'll spend more time, some I'll spend less time, depending on, on completeness and quality. But I'll give my predictions about what I think would likely be the winners. Will it be the case? We'll say. It hasn't been, I haven't been too good at it so far. Not for lack of quality, but I think from what I've heard, other issues, because again, you have to not only submit your art in a certain format, you have to then follow up with them within a certain time frame and be able to do all their check marks about, hey, you got to make sure that everything's on the up and up in terms of their terms and conditions. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. So we have this first one. So we have this YAIRA here with incredible Mr. E98. This is kind of interesting. So it's got like a multiple angles for looking, I guess you could say, at YAIRA in different poses. Certainly, I think the concept is cool, like this kind of breakthrough idea. I think that having these different scenes is a lot of fun. The art itself, little bit on the not as high level comic book level. But again, someone who's definitely on the path. So I probably wouldn't put this into the running, but I think the concept is cool and certainly, could be taken up a notch. All right, we have artist Shah Ra Art. I think this is a cool pose. You got YAIRA here kind of looking beastly and tough. And, the arms and hands are a little bit off of the proportions, or, they're a little bigger, but nonetheless, a cool pose. I think I would like to see YAIRA more enlarged and kind of centered, with this pose. But I think the concept is cool. It definitely is a cool concept that can maybe just use a little bit of a different execution. Oh, we have Kevin Sharp. So this is an inked piece. Obviously, ink pieces are super cool to see because it makes you wonder, what will happen if they were to have it colored. I think that the inks themselves are, stylized very nicely. I think the angle's pretty wild. That up shot is cool. And you have YAIRA with a little bit of calf and the foot forward. I would say that overall, this is a pretty good piece. Maybe I'd have some critiques on the proportions. I think maybe a little bit in the hips and the angles, but it's getting close there. I would say, this piece could be pretty cool, especially if it was colored by a competent colorist. This might actually be one of the better ones so far. I'm not sure if I'd benchmark it yet as being a top tier pick, but it's definitely probably the best one so far in terms of detail and comic book style design. All right, we have Matt McAdam. So this is kind of a dressed down YAIRA from that appearance in isom 1. I think that's a great pose. I think that the energy thing's super cool. I think overall the proportions are pretty good, going from the front of the hand to the back. I think, even the facial structure is pretty good here. I would say the face is a little bit different from the YAIRA drawn in, but it is definitely overall decent. It's competent. This is certainly one of the better ones, of course, in terms of proportions. I think I personally would have done a different background. As cool as it kind of is to have this, it looks like little bit of a almost photorealism clouds thing. I think maybe something a little bit more exciting on par with the detail done for the figure would have been better. Again, this is one of the better ones so far, between this last one with Kevin Sharp and Matt McAdam. Certainly these two are currently in the lead out of our set. But I think it's pretty good, All right, this is Shane Reynolds. YAIRA look kind of forward. You can already see the colors are a bit rudimentary. The proportions a bit off with the legs and the body and head. Certainly an interesting concept, but there's a little bit more, someone who's just learning how to draw design. Johnny Fizzle. Okay. So this has a lot of, I could, see here in the style, the photoshopping, what it looks like to me is like almost like dodge tooling. So it's basically where you create highlights by lightening the under colors. Interesting concept. I think the layout of the characters is great. In terms of the concept art, I think that the proportions are a little bit off, and the coloring is a bit too odd, I would say, with the smoothing. It's a little bit more like someone who's just learning how to use Photoshop and the dodge tool. But I think, again, good concept, but not one of the top tiers yet. We have Dan Eubanks. So this is a fun concept. 3 jets coming over. I mean, the jets over people is a common thing. You got Bloodroot there. You got isom. You got YAIRA. This is, again, it's got a good concept, I think, in terms of, what could be done as a conceptual art. I think the design on it and the facial proportions, the coloring is a little bit too rudimentary for high level art, but good job in terms of getting down a basic concept and some things. I think you just got to keep working on those proportions and shading with the colors. We got Jerry Judge Hans. This almost has kind of like a anime art feel, a little bit like almost like Americanization anime. Definitely on the racy side of things, right? This is definitely made to be focused on the booty and on the top. Sometimes you might be like, that's cheating. You're trying to get people to focus on the assets. So certainly, I think it is a good concept. I think that this is a great conceptual art. I think that it would be fun if this was done in a more high-level comic book art form. The colors are starting to get there. Just the proportions are, a bit off here. It's, it looks like your back's about to break, and it's like you're trying to show the boobs and the butt, like overdoing it almost, so, the facial proportions a little bit off, a little bit too anime style, a little bit too wide on the eyes, almost a little alien-y. But I do like some of the color scheming on this, and I think that if this was reworked, take the next level, it could be something. So we got Seb. This is funny. So I'm guessing, is this supposed to be Eric July being saved by YAIRA? So I got YAIRA like lifting up a car, and Eric, unless it's a Rippaverse fan, but that looks like the Rippaverse logo on the hat. Kind of looks like a cartoonization of Eric July in some way. They give him some muscles at least. It's a funny concept. I think this is a great concept. It's certainly a lot of fun. Obviously the proportions here are not up to mainstream comic levels. It's a notch below that. Could definitely use some reworking on the proportions. But I think it's a really fun concept. And if they were a little bit more practiced in some of the drawing of proportions and shading of coloring, it would be something that maybe could be worth. It's really funny. That's a really good one. We have Drazuka. This is fun. So YAIRA doing a pitch, right? Like a really energized baseball pitch with the Rippaverse hat and the logo in the background. I think this is actually a great concept. This is a really fun one. So brilliant execution on the concept, having the eyes up close, then the reeling up for the pitch wind. I think that's fantastic. The only tough part is that, as cool as this is overall, I think that the quality level in terms of the drawing and proportions of art, especially in the face, just isn't all the way there. But it is kind of deceptive because when I look at the top panel and the eyes, it's almost like a little deceptive here because the eyes are actually drawn very high level art. Like that detail there is like, oh, actually you think it's about to be like top tier. But then I would say when you look at her face when she's actually throwing, it takes a little bit away from that. So maybe there should have been a little bit more time spent perfecting the bottom portion, because I think the one that's in the distance in the middle is forgivable a bit more. But the bottom one is throwing me off. I think it's a brilliant concept. So I think that's a lot of fun, very creative. Certainly could be in the top running for like, one of the ones that are in there for, getting an award for a concept, right? All right. So we have Ray Mateo WSC. So we got YAIRA versus Bloodruth. I think this is another great concept art because you got crossover, you have this graveyard scene, you got those beasts that we saw with Bloodruth before. I like the colors. I do think that in the face and the other body proportions, I think there are some issues in terms of those proportions in the high level. Again, it's another borderline, and YAIRA is missing the blue chip inside her belt. But it's a great concept. It's a really cool concept. I think for me, the balance is off too. There's a little bit too empty space up top. I would have positioned it a little bit more to center it, but great concept with an almost there execution. We have Ray's Doodles 27. YAIRA, definitely anime style a bit with the big eyes. I think this is a fun concept, just not going to be up there in terms of the quality and the style. But again, a lot of people are putting down good concepts for sure. There's a lot of great concepts, just not the execution. Here we go. We got a Rippaverse. What is this? Chibi art, basically. Siri the Witch. It's like a borderline chibi art. Almost looks like Teen Titans, in terms of the design. I like the original show, Teen Titans. Pretty fun. We have many of the core characters here, especially, going across the latest issues, everything from Chadran, Isom, Bloodruth, the Alpha Core, and all that good stuff. Lilian Renashi and everybody else. So this is another great concept. The chibi art style is kind of unique. I like it. It's definitely one of those ones that's going to make you wonder. It is a bit simple, right? It's a bit flat art style in terms of the colors and shading. Obviously, given it's a chibi style, you have the big heads with the small bodies. So it's more of a fun thing, but I really do like it. I really do like this is a fun, like good guys versus bad guys concept. I think that is a brilliant execution, in terms of the concept. So Sarah the Witch, that was a fun one. That was a smart move to do something unique, especially if you're more of a chibi artist type of person. Oh, and hey, what's up? Books Ordered. Thank you, Joseph. Joseph here actually just got a bunch of Voluntarius books that are going inside of a retail store. So that's kind of cool to have Voluntarius going in a retail store selling different types of goodies. So I'm really excited about that. So thank you, Joseph. All right. So we have Sean Gondan. This is interesting because it has a very realistic sense to YAIRA. It's got this Rippaverse, melded thing on the top. In terms of trying to be a realistic borderline fantasy art, I think it's pretty cool. It's just not, to me, the high level comic art I would want to see, especially for picking, for winners of a Rippaverse contest that could potentially draw cover. But I do think this is pretty cool for the genre. There's certainly things that could be improved with maybe the colors and the shading and stuff like that. But overall, cool concept for sure. Definitely cool concept. We have Jared Sievert. So YAIRA in a bunch of different poses. Again, this is a kind of anime style. Proportions a bit off. The colors, a bit flat. But keep working at your art and your talent, and you'll get there. Edward Doherty. All right, so we have YAIRA, and there's a little bit too much detail shading on the face, and the arm is a bit elongated in a weird way where it looks like she's almost like dying like an old grandma. So I think this, again, a lot of people with great concepts, just not the total level execution. She looks a bit too geriatric with all the lines. I would have worked in the face more. It looks like she has too much of a under chin, and there's like weird lines underneath the arm, and it looks like she's got this really crazy skinny arm, like she's some monster. Missing the blue and a few details on the chest and bottom. But again, keep working on it, keep getting better. Take note of what to improve upon, and you'll get there. All right. Oh, and Breaking the Flaw, who that was Joseph, he said 5 copies of each of your comics. Yeah, thank you so much. That's so cool. Yeah, so as I said before, Joseph ordered a bunch of comics for retail store fulfillment. So basically, Voluntarius is starting to get on more and more shelves, especially after we did our comic book store tabling, which was pretty fun. So I really appreciate that. So excited. Oh, and thank you. Appreciate it. Joram, for your compliment. So, all right. Going back. So Kristen Courtright. So YAIRA here. Let's see here. YAIRA is, there's just too much that's making it look masculine with the proportions off. It's like there's a lot of dark shading lines, and the suit's not exactly accurate. It needs a bit more working, a little too dark. So just keep on working on that. All right, Jeremiah Blackwell. Okay. Jeremiah seems, in this one, I'd say the colors seem a bit more competent. I think I like the use of the shading here and the colors. I think there's a little bit of awkwardness with the pose and the leg and the little bit of proportions. The face is not doing it for me. The background is super cool. So I think this person just needs to work on their proportions and style a little bit. But it is certainly one of the better ones so far in terms of art style, total competence. I do like the pose and everything. So no general complaints. It's just, I would say it's not drop dead yet. So let's see. Adam Miller here. We got YAIRA. Interesting kind of water paint look. The face is a little bit too muddied and weird looking. But for your style and your genre, it's cool. It definitely could use some more finessing on the proportions. JMA, a little too muddied. She looks like a demon. The colors are all mushed. But keep working on refining those details. Patrick Ojota. Patrick Ojota here. That's kind of a cutesy face to YAIRA, more penciled look, watercolor background. For the genre, it's kind of cool. It's kind of a fun pinup piece. I would say though, it's still a few notches down from your typical comic book style artwork. So you'd have to up those details a little bit more in proportions and the shading depths, but good posing. Arnold Fuchsia. Arnold here has a great concept of having a bunch of different characters with Alphacore, YAIRA, and Norfair and everybody, but shading and proportions are a bit off. YAIRA looks a little bit awkward with her face and body, so you just got to work on getting those details a bit better. But again, great layout concept, like great idea to have this composite, just not all the way up there in terms of style. Erskine Leonard. So the colors really pop on this. It's just, the line work here, it's a little bit too muddy for me. It's got, certainly cool characters. Again, great design in terms of the concept, but the facial proportions of YAIRA a little bit off there. The shading details a little bit rudimentary. So you just got to keep working on your proportions and your shading, but it's a good concept. Like, this is a great breakdown. Barry Keegan. Barry Keegan here. We got a cool concept of Blood Ruth. We got Gooding. We got YAIRA. Just main issue is the style details, design, the proportions a bit off, face a little bit too awkward on the fronts and the backs. So we gotta get those proportions a little bit better and a little bit better design. But again, cool concept. What the fan art did YAIRA? The YAIRA logo looks cool. Just the problem with YAIRA here is a little bit too simplistic, smooth on the art. Cool pose, cool energy, very good energy look. I just think that the proportions / the colors a little bit too simple, but fun art for sure. Ed Watson, artist extraordinaire. Okay, cool pose, but yeah, the face on that's a little bit too rough. A little bit too kind of bloated and a little bit masculine, stuff like that. So cool concept. The foreshortening's a little bit off on the front to back. But yeah, the face definitely needs some work. But again, keep working on your details and you'll get there. Wesley Edwards art. We have a cool pose of YAIRA doing this kind of weird fingers thing. I think the proportions on the small fingers are a little bit off with the bigger fingers. The face also a little bit with her smile, almost like she's about to fart. But keep working on those proportions. Balance the hand a little bit better. That's what we got to practice on this one. And you'll get there, Wesley. All right. Ismail Wamala. So this is a cool concept because a lot of the art so far have been traditional comic book, in a kind of 11:17 overall format. This is a widescreen one. It's kind of a multi-tiered, like multi-action like sequence. You got Brian Solari, you got YAIRA. This is battle thing. I think it's a cool concept. I think that especially for this being wide, I would have liked a little bit more detail shading, a little bit better on the proportions. You know, YAIRA's lips look a wee too big on that, but nonetheless, good start, good, you know, cool concept. Not sure if it's going to be one of the best ones though. All right, Anthony draws cartoons. Oh, here's a fun one. Right, we got Ingrid Valdez being choked by her own rope with YAIRA. The background actually looks really detailed and cool. You know, with all these city buildings. Main issue, of course, there's, you know, going to be some design issues with proportions here and color depth and detail design. So again, great concept. Just got to finesse the details. Sterling K Art, little YAIRA seeming watercolor background, a little bit, you know, looks like brush strokey. Fun concept, proportions a little off, rudimentary coloring scheme. So you just got to work on those proportions and that color depth, but you'll get there one day. Just keep working on it. B cross 0. Oh, here we go. Now we're talking with some high level art. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Oh, and Breaking the Flaw says the voluntaries at the local Silverman book display in Weir, New Hampshire. Awesome. So this one right here, now we're talking. So B cross 0 definitely is just looking at this right now. This is definitely one of the top tier, right? This is incredible detail, both the foreground and the background. Bloodruth looks awesome. Her facial proportions looks great. The shading detail looks appropriate for every part of this and consistent within the style. The energy coming off her fingers, cool. The monster is cool. This is a big, you know, one of the bigger ones here. This is definitely a serious contender. In fact, I'll even, let me see if I can open a tab. Okay, opening that new tab for later. Oh, hey, what's up? Mike has bad knees. He's got my volunteers book in the mail today. Can't wait to read it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. So happy it came to you. That makes me feel so glad. Because yeah, there's a lot of work that went into that. And I hope you see the TLC, because me and Pho spent the weekend and then into the week having to package all those. You know, we, you know, personally actually do that ourselves. And we were like, okay, let's make sure everything is nice and well packed, so nobody has any problems when they get their books. We did, you know, the Gemini comic mailers. We did, you know, backing boards, you know, sealed bags, all that good stuff. So glad to hear it made to you safely, and hopefully, you know, came out in mint condition, despite, you know, how people are these days with the shipping. They just throw everything everywhere, and it's like they don't care. But so I'm glad to hear it made it safely to you. All right, so a B cross 0 definitely right now is at #1 for me among what we've seen so far, for sure. Incredible artwork. All right, yeah. Oh, the only thing that's go back. The only thing that's a downside to this is that there's no YAIRA. So in terms of art style, great. Only one small problem, not YAIRA, which you kind of need probably for a YAIRA fan art contest. But great work, great work. Really, you know, one of the best. So, all right, you got Timmers. Timmers here has this kind of YAIRA ink artwork. Cool concept. As is often the case with many of these artists, they're doing really good with coming up with these, you know, collage montage ideas, just not there yet with the proportions. You know, face a little bit off, and the other characters too. But you're getting there. You're very close. You're you know, a level away of just adjustment from getting to something that's like, oh, okay, that's a really good base for colors. All right, Pierre Bernard Jr. This is a really cool art piece. So it looks like his style is he does some type of almost psychedelic circle pattern to create this. And normally, of course, I would be more critical of someone who is doing an artwork where it's not the traditional comic form. But this is a cool art. Like, this is something that, you know, whoever does this, their style, like this is a trademark style. This is a really cool concept. So this is someone who must, I mean, based on the design, I'm guessing that this is like something that they do themselves. Like it's a specialty thing they do. So I just got to give it props no matter what, that this is an incredible art piece, using these circle patterns to, and I don't know, you know, maybe let me see if I can zoom in here, because you might really need to see it zoomed in. These circle patterns are just incredible. If you see that detail, just using these like kind of circle patterns and fill-ins, I mean, that's just incredible. So something special. I don't know, you know, obviously it's not going to be comic book traditional art, but that is a cool art piece. Like, that is actually pretty sick. And the proportions aren't too bad. They're pretty close. more forgivable because it's this weird but cool circle design. All right, Josh Moya. Josh here has a move like a halfway between realism and comic book style. I think the colors are pretty good. Certainly the detail and the shading for skin tone is definitely more realistic. The proportions seem a little off with the hip and the back. I mean, of course, you could say maybe her back's behind, but that would make it kind of an awkward pose. It's one of those things where it's like you have a lot good going on for you, but I'm not sure if it's going to carry you far enough with some of these proportions. So, all right, Thorny Devil. We got more of kind of penciled look. Cool concept. Man, I would almost say this almost looks like, it says Thorny Devil, but it also reminds me of David Conway's art a little bit. So the proportions here, a little bit off. It needs a little bit more detail and stuff like that. Great concept. I love all the ice spikes, stuff like that. They took that obviously from the sneak peeks and the trailer and all that good stuff. It just is not quite there yet. But keep practicing, keep getting your proportions better, and you'll be there. All right, Mr. Micron. Okay, this is pretty cool. I love the energy effects. While it's not necessarily traditional comic art in all ways, and there's no blue in the triangle, it is very cool. The face here is kind of epic. So I don't know. It's I have some there's some proportion flaws between the shoulder to hips ratio and this or that, but it is kind of a cool art piece. Not an absolute drop dead, but pretty cool. Anja Wagner, pencils piece, could be even charcoal based on the strokes that I'm seeing here. A cool picture in terms of it looks like a photo. I do like it. It's elegant, but it's just, I think it's not going to cut it for the comic art style level that's needed. Bruce Patnaud. I hope that's it right, but who knows? All right, cool YAIRA pose. Obviously, lots of great stuff going on conceptually. A little tough on the face, a little bit weird on that kind of pose. It's not colored, so it's kind of rough there. But I do like some of the ratios and things going on. I just wish they colored this because I think maybe if this was colored, it would take it to the next level, or it can be passable, but it's pretty good. Just a little bit, maybe too masculine on the face, but we'll see. We'll see. Calvin Wycliffe. Wow, lots of detail in this line work. YAIRA being whoa, she's killed the creature with its head cut off. So that's kind of brutal. Obviously, there's a little bit, too much going on with the lines where things are getting lost, the coloring detail, facial structure a little bit off. But cool concept, very good. With the right proportions and style, this would be a very cool concept. Deacon Slade, here we go. Looks like we got some semi-pro work here now. So Deacon Slade has YAIRA and isom, a super jacked isom, as you can see. I think this is going to be what I would consider one of the better ones in terms of traditional comic art book form. Lots of great line work. isom doesn't exactly look like his face, but we could forgive it stylistically. This is certainly a great piece in terms of the inks. Again, the only flaw is no colors. But man, wish you got this colored because it's going to leave me, wondering. It's definitely one of the better, more competent pieces. There's little proportions thing here and there with her leg and this, that, but certainly up there better. Joy Thomaston. Cool pencils piece, or maybe that's water pen ink, maybe. Facial proportions a bit too off. She almost looks like some type of Slavic. But it's just, a bit off there with the proportions. But, keep it going. Keep working on those proportions. Just Koshiro. Cool. This is a fun kind of Americana anime piece. The eyes a bit wide. Lips are full. Face a bit wide, more in the anime style. At least they got the blue on the belt. Pose is cool. The moonlight's cool. The blurring in the background's cool. The building use is cool. I like the black and yellow, of course. So, I like the people getting the Irish cheeks. These, both face cheeks and back cheeks, right? And yeah, Pencil Beast was a finalist last time. Yes, Pencil Beasts are definitely possible to be finalists. So we got to pick out which pencil is likely the best among them. This is definitely really good for the genre. Again, it's not matching the exact comic book style. I'm going to set this aside for a second. But this is certainly, again, when I'm thinking about the total picture, how good is your shading? How good are your proportions? Did you get the details right? This is so far one of the more competent ones. Just not exactly the style I'd be going for this. Okay, what is this? So macabre Derek, I'm guessing, like dead Derek or of death. Is this YAIRA? Because it almost looks like an ethnic gender bender or something, or an ethnic bender YAIRA. Cool pose. Obviously the concept with the shading and stuff like that is a cool idea. It's just the face is throwing me off, and the color choice for the character, because I'm like, is this YAIRA? So again, lots of people doing overall great concepts. This one even is a little bit more compositionally balanced in terms of the top and the bottom, total picture, but it's throwing me off with the line work on the face. So, all right, Theo Kangs. Overall interesting color use, personal off, face a bit off. She almost looks like she has Asian eyes, something like that. But it's certainly getting there. You got to work a little bit more on your proportions and your facial structure. All right, Brett Barkley. Okay, here we go. So they got some halftone patterning in the background. This cool ice thing. I think that's a great concept. Love how she's looking with the wind blown and the skirt blown. Cool concept on how that's all presented. I think this is one of the more competent pieces in terms of proportions. Hard to tell right now if the chest piece is totally right, if that is exact. But this is certainly one that is one of the better ones overall. So I'm going to put that to the side for now. The gold tones, especially, that I like the realistic gold tones, very good. And I like the red and blue contrast. So that's a smart move. Stigmata Rose. This kind of almost looks like a picture of a painting. Just a little bit too simplistic. Cool pose concept, just not going to be there in the details, and the boobs kind of look like rocks hanging off. So you got to work on that smoothing and more in the facial details. All right, Black Paper Cat art. This is a little bit of a soft tone anime style, not going to be up to par. Just keep working on those proportions. Brandon McGinley. Yep, this is a somewhat interesting pose. The proportions are off, color depth is not quite there. Face is a little bit too weird, masculine, almost like Conan the Barbarian. So just keep working on those proportions. Suba, a little bit simplistic on the coloring and the shading, the depth. A little bit too awkward in the angle. So you got to keep working on those proportions and stuff like that. Oh, Leon Barbosa. Here we go. This is a little bit better on the pencil ink concept. I mean, the pose is cool. The hands up and down kind of thing. Facial structure is a little off from what I normally expect. She got some thick thighs. Those some real thick thighs. Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit off in the proportion. It's throwing me. It's certainly the detail is better than most that we've seen so far. It's just it's throwing me on that bit. But cool job on the background, the shading. I'm not sure that I would put this aside yet. All right, April Zima. Great concept, right? I think that is YAIRA holding Ingrid Valdez's face, maybe, or is that girl that was the ice girl in the trailer? I don't know, because everything's icy around. So now I'm wondering which is going to be which, but I would assume with the green that it is. I like the concept. I guess I would say I'm a little bit dissatisfied that YAIRA's turned away, because you have her whole body kind of facing us and then the head's turned away. I think that maybe you should have brought it back over more toward the viewer. It shows a different angle, honestly. You have a lot of good things going on that just needs a little more color depth and a little bit better proportion angling. Because I think you want to achieve a look almost, but you're like, I want to show the body, but I also want them to be off the side. So I think you should just pick the direction more fully and brought it into the viewer to make it more exciting. Tyler Marcello. Again, another great concept. This cool thing with you got, isom and the beasts and the spat and Bloodruth. But obviously proportions and the shading are just not going to be up to par there. You got to work on those a bit. Jason Krager. This is kind of a fun one. It's got YAIRA being taken photos of by a bunch of bystanders who have, I guess, phones out. Cool concept. You know, I think overall it's pretty decent. There's no blue in the triangle. I don't know why people miss that so often, but on the belt. But it's a cool concept. It's a tough one because stylistically, for the style, it's good, and he's able to repeat that multiple times within those screens. And it almost made me wonder, because if you look in the screens kind of show, if you look closely here, the screens actually show, come back, baby, come back. There we go. See how in the face for each of these screens, her face on the right screen is a bit squished together, and the other one's a little widened. It seems to me that this artist actually took the original face and didn't redraw it. So instead of doing a unique drawing for each of those photo cells, he just copied the main art and then squeezed it together, like transformed it and squeezed it to fit the screens. I think that's a design choice that I think should have not been done to keep this one in the running, personally. So I'm not totally sold on it, but it's a very cool concept. It's just borderline. Sojak, great, cool pose, just design details just not going to be up there. Artist AM Studio, line art by Alex Valquez, colors by Mariano de Venezia. So I guess it's by a team. So that's kind of interesting. All right, so let's talk about what's going on here. We got Projexis magazine, so they're playing off of, YAIRA being Dr. Sally Rodell, and playing off the trailer showing her there. I think this is overall. What's interesting to me about this one is that this one matches the trailer more than anything, right? This YAIRA looks like the YAIRA in the trailer, as in the actress who played her, as opposed to what I think is more the standard look from the comic book that's been done so far. So this is kind of fun because they did such a good job on the lettering, with that, Projexis, and, it's very mainstream, competent overall in terms of the pose and the balance and stuff like that. They just chose a version of her that's more like the trailer, but it works for the purpose. So I'm going to save that one. All right, Zaki Rogman. Cool concept with the energy, but face does not look like YAIRA whatsoever. And it's a little bit stale with kind of just the up and down. So eyes are a bit too far apart. That should have been fixed. Remember, just one eye length in between each eye. So it's, you gotta work on that. Hair's a little bit too dark. So a little bit too dark on this stuff. So you gotta work on the shading, colors, and stuff like that. But energy's kind of cool. Is that it? Did we just go back to one? Okay, we are back to one. All right, so now that we've done this, I'm going to take a look at some of my top entries, right? So among these, I thought this one by B Cross Zero, so let's bring that back. Ooh. So this one by B Cross Zero was super cool. And you could just see here, I mean, look at the detail. This looks like almost like a still out of an animated short, right? This looks like it could be a freeze frame from what would have been, an animated adaptation. This is hands down. I mean, to me, this is probably one of the best actual art pieces among them. Just for the style, it's just totally competent and it has everything you want, except YAIRA. Shucks. I could have just thrown her in there somewhere. I don't know. All right. So now I got to think about the other YAIRA designs. All right, so we got just Koshiro here. What I thought was good about this is just that for this style, everything looks appropriate, right? In this genre, the body and the arms and the boobs and the waist, everything looks stylistically appropriate. The colors balance with the buildings. I love the use of black and yellow and, the little art at the bottom. It's just overall relatively a competent art piece, and it's just kind of refreshing to see among the ones to see something that has at least everything kind of working together for the genre, right? So I definitely would keep that one after seeing what we've done. Brett Barkley, again, one of the ones who has, I think, more of a mainstream competent art style. I mean, you just see the line work here just looks very proportional with the legs. The gold trim looks realistic. He got the blue, on the belt. Her face looks very comic book realistic. Everything's just working together well. You know, in the background looks cool too with the halftone pattern and everything. It's just a cool art piece. You know what I mean? It's just a great piece of her. I mean, I might have cropped it a little bit down just because it does feel a little bit empty in the red. Maybe I would add something in the background just to fill in. But everything else is exactly as you'd expect from a mainstream, competent professional comic book. And then we have this AM studio, which is, you know, multiple people, you know, Alex, you know, and Mariano. You got this Projectious magazine thing, which again is super cool, especially now you got the Rippaverse Rippazine thing. The artwork is obviously mainstream competent. This looks like something you'd see in a mainstream comic book. It is more adapted to what was presented in the YAIRA trailer, but again, they took it, they made it work. It looks very well designed and official. Great framing, great use of the text to make this look like a magazine. The only thing maybe they should have had is a period after the doctor, but you know, who cares? But yeah, this is exactly what you expect. It's exactly what you expect from a mainstream, you know, comic book cover thing. You know, I would expect whoever did this to, you know, be able to competently do it again. So that leaves us in a difficult conundrum. So who is number one? Who will be number one? We already have 4 top picks on my end. I personally think this Projectious will be number one. And the reason why is because they just did such a good job of adapting the trailer and making it fun. And you can just tell from the shading, you can tell from the line work that this team is a very competent artwork team. Like it's obviously they would do a good job otherwise, especially if they were hired to do a cover. So to me, I would say that's probably number one, number two arena. Who is going to be, you know, up there? I really think, again, number one, number two arena potentially gets a tight mix, but I think that this Brett Barkley piece certainly is up there. Again, if you're noticing, I am focused on YAIRA being in the picture to be a top 1 or 2, because again, it's the whole thing is a YAIRA art contest, right? That's the point. You're supposed to have YAIRA. So if you don't have YAIRA, it's already kind of like a tough call. But this one has YAIRA, beautiful, elegant. This is, you can just tell like in this art piece that this person is likely to be able to make a cover or do another artwork that is of this competent style. Absolutely. It's just very great classic work here. I mean, this is the kind of artwork I would look for if I was hiring for somebody. Absolutely. This, you know, for sure. Could definitely work with that. I think that this Just Koshiro would come in maybe 2 or 3, depending. Again, it's not my favorite in terms of style, but we've seen from before that, you know, Rippaverse does pick ones that have different art styles than traditional comic book. And this one, you know, it's like Americana anime halfway between, and it just overall, you know, you just see the color depth and dynamic. It's very competent. The buildings look cool and proportional. Her body looks proportional to everything else. The face looks intense with the eyes, you know, just everything is working for this style. It's just hard to find something that's at fault outside of just subjective preference of personal preference for comic book style. You know, within this genre, everything is working together properly. So, you know, absolutely. And then I think possibly B-Cross-Zero coming in at 3 or 4, not because this isn't the best art piece, which, I mean, to me, hands down, this is the best art piece among them. I mean, by just by total action, color dynamic, you know, shading, you know, all the proportions, having something crazy, you know, looking, I mean, it's just is something that you would expect of something that's high level. Again, it's more like an animated movie adaptation kind of thing, but it works so well. The only reason this is not going to come in number 1, 2, or maybe even 3 to me is because there's no YAIRA. You know, there's no YAIRA here. So how do you do that? Yeah, Doug Kettle says Barkley number 1. Barkley could be number 1. That's just it. You know, this artist, I mean, that's what I just say to you. Hey, you know, B-Cross-Zero, your talents are amazing. I would love to, you know, give you a project at some point. That'd be fun. But just remember that whatever art contest you're submitting for, make sure you have the character that is there for the specific art contest. Because otherwise, that's what, you know, I would think. I would think that maybe they'd be like, great artwork, but we can't put it 1, 2, or 3 because there's no YAIRA. You know, it's supposed to be YAIRA. So, but if this is a Bloodruth contest, you know, for a Bloodruth, it'd be like, well, this is one of the top ones. So, so that's to me my top 4. You know, 1, 2, 3, and 4. outside of that, the closest runners up, I'm just going to take a quick look to see if there's, you know, a 5 or 6 if I had to throw in as wild cards. Mostly it'd be from like the inked section. Actually, I would maybe put this one as a 5 or 6 potential. You know, Jason Krager. Again, it's just they goofed up on squishing her and just transforming it instead of drawing unique drawings for the cell phone. It's kind of tough there. Maybe do Bruce. You know, pretty cool. Definitely cool style. I just wish it was colored, and that's what's holding me back a bit on that one. Deacon, pretty cool. Isom's face a little off for me, but potentially 5 or 6 place, you know, considering 5th or 6th place. And then maybe one more in the wild card arena, we have Kevin Sharp, right? 5th, 6th, 7th arena, just because it's a cool piece. The jaw's a little too smooth. Like her face is almost looks like a, you know, she's wearing one of those Japanese, you know, theater masks, right? I just want to see that jaw line tapered in, made more feminine, a little more, you know, detailed, that kind of thing. But it is pretty cool. So, you know, out of the inks, those are the ones that might fall into the 5th, 6th, 7th place arena for whatever, you know, the prize would be. But by far, you know, we are definitely, that is me and whoever agrees with me, is definitely confident on Projections Time Magazine, Science Woman being a top tier pick. And oops, the this artwork piece here, which I don't know why. Oh, there we go. Which is by Brett Barkley, being top tier for sure. You know, again, could be one even. This piece by Just Koshiro, again, just very competent overall for the genre. Great balance with the colors. I love the black and yellow. You know, personal bias, but again, it balances well with the outfit. And then B Cross Zero with this Blood Roost piece, which, you know, again, to me, this is actually probably the best overall piece, but with no YAIRA, no chicken dinner on that one. In terms of 1 or 2, it'd be hard to pick 1 or 2 where there's no YAIRA. So you got to have at least like the first 3 be YAIRA, right? Otherwise, like, you know, what's the point of a YAIRA fan art competition if there's no YAIRA, right? So, but, you know, do that for the next one. You know, B Cross Zero, definitely have the main character that's being presented for the competition, so that way you have a good chance of winning, because you're talented. You're extremely talented. Certainly, you know, one of the best here. You know, by far, with everything, you know, considered. So, all right. So it looks like you know, that's about it for the fan art contest. I wonder who will win. You know, put down below what you think is likely to be, you know, in the top 1, 2, or 3. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Is there something that you think, you know, could be missing that maybe I'm not thinking about? You know, Doug here says Barkley could be number 1. I agree. It could be number 1. You know, Barkley, you know, was that really high art level version of YAIRA. I think that's fantastic. It could very well be. I just think that the other artists, well, they didn't take the most, I guess you could say, compelling action shot. You can just see in their work here that they are very competent artists, and they made this very cool, you know, fitted to the trailer, which I thought was cool. So, but yeah, but in the meantime, you know, just put down what you think, and we'll see what happens. Who knows? You never know what's going to happen. Yeah, Mike says he realized the Blood Roost one. Exactly. The Blood Roost one is just so sick. It really is. And if you haven't, of course, yet, make sure to pick up your copy of YAIRA. I've already picked a bunch of perks. I'm going to pick up probably another thing toward the end. I didn't pick up the Dokuman card set too, but I want to make sure I have that because I want to do a review of those, because that's always fun and people like seeing it if they weren't able to pick it up for whatever reason. So I'll be picking that up close to the campaign's end, because I think it's May 25th or whatever. Let's see. Let's just make sure, because I'm pretty sure this campaign ends May 25th, but I want to be absolutely correct. Yes. So just verify for everybody. Yes, it ends on May 25th, this campaign. You know, they've had 10,000 plus purchasers, which actually fits very neatly in my prediction that I said this campaign is going to do at least 1.3 million, and, you know, 10,000 purchasers, because at least because 10,000, I believe, is what the core fan base of Rippaverse is. I think 10,000 represents the typical number for Rippaverse who like are diehards. There's at least 10,000 people who are like, every Rippaverse issue, I'm getting the issue kind of thing, at least the comic. So, and that's only good, of course, going to grow over there as the fandom grows. So, it's super cool to see that this was another success, another $1 million success. And I'm excited to see what they do next, when it comes to, whatever trailers they come out with. I'm not sure if they're going to hit the 2 million mark on this. Some people are wondering if this campaign will hit the 2 million. The reason why I say 2 million is because at 2 million, they have the YAIRA statue. So a lot of people were excited about the 2 million mark YAIRA statue, but it's kind of a bit of a leg to get there. We do have a month. It's possible. I think they're going to need to do a lot of promotion. I don't know. Maybe now is the time to do paid ads, even to give it a try to do paid ads. Definitely got to go on a lot of shows, get as much media coverage as possible in whatever outlets you can, just to pump it up, because there is a lot of stuff going on out in the world right now, right? It's hard to get attention on projects with so much craziness out in the world. So, I think maybe they should up their outreach, maybe consider even doing paid advertising to really boost this one and see where they could take it. Because if they hit that 2 million, I guarantee a lot of people are going to try to get that statue, even among the existing people. And that's going to take it to the next level. So you never know. You never know. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out with me on this stream. And I'll update you next to whatever else we got going on next. Who knows? Working on Voluntarius. Right now, we're actually working on the sequel to Suit Saga, now that we just fulfilled that campaign. So I've been working on that behind the scenes and the trailer. I think you're going to really like it. And I'm going to be teasing that over time on the Voluntarius website and on the Indiegogo. So I'm letting people who backed the Suit Saga 1 campaign know where we are with that. When eventually we'll launch it, probably end of summer, early fall. At this point, it seems like that's going to be the case. So stay tuned, and I will talk to y'all soon.